Welcome into Rick Renner, Texas High School Hysteria, powered by Ford. Ford is the best in Texas. Subscribe now and follow on YouTube, Twitter, Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Odyssey, or any of your favorite streaming platforms. And never miss an episode. Joining me now, the head coach and athletic director of Port Neches-Groves and those state championship Indians who just won their first state title since 1975. He is the architect from the world-famous Joseph coaching family, the one and only Jeff Joseph. So good to see you, Coach. Congratulations. Are you still enjoying the purple parade?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to slow down for a while for me. It's been surreal feelings for the past few weeks, and it's still riding that high.
Such an unbelievable community there. What has it been like walking around as a state champion, knowing that you brought that to them for the first time in almost 50 years?
I don't really like the feeling like I brought it to them, man. It was there was a bunch of us that were involved in that, but we did it together, and it's been awesome around town, and these people have been extremely excited for us and for our football team, for our young men. I talked to some of these people around here. It's they talk about growing up and hearing about state championships and hearing about these teams and never getting to experience winning it in their lifetime. So to get to do that for this place that's so passionate and cares so much about football, it's been pretty awesome.
It really is remarkable what you've been able to achieve. In just 2 years, you've played in every game that you can play in. I mean, you've been in 2 state championship games, 32 games. You win the first state title since 1975. How are you able to change the culture so fast in just your first 2 years as a head coach to be able to bring them to the promised land like this?
Yeah, it's going to sound weird to say, but it wasn't a dramatic overhaul for by any means. I got lucky that we have very good coaches here. I talked to Coach Matt McGandle into coming over here from Seguin, and he's played a huge part in this. But honestly, we have kids that work extremely hard. We have parents that let us coach their kids, and those kids will do anything we ask of them, and it's an everyday thing for them. They're dedicated to being good and being great, and they practice that way. They prepare that way through off season, and it takes what it takes, and winning is not easy, and our staff knows that, and our kids know that, and it takes work, and they've dedicated themselves to putting in the work, not just on Friday nights. It's the preparation of off season. It's been spring football for us, and those extra practices that we were able to get in the spring for the past 2 years that have paid off in the long haul throughout the 16-game seasons.
What enticed you about this community and going there and seeing what this community could do?
Yeah, always knew, and whenever I was asked about it, I wanted my first head coaching job to be at a place that cared about football, and there's probably not one in Texas that cares more than our school here about kids and athletes and about sports and true passion for team and pride and tradition about athletics. So it was, obviously a opportunity that I had to come to a place that was going to be dedicated towards being good, that wanted to win, that cared about sports. And, this is not a lot of people know about our little corner of Texas all the way down here at the coast, the border of Louisiana. But this place has a ton of tradition and a ton of pride, and it was an unbelievable opportunity for me to have this place give me the chance for my first head coach job.
Yeah, and I think about what you were able to pull off. Your kids taking down a team like South Oak Cliff, just absolutely loaded with athletes, probably more so than any other team in Class 5A with all the talent that they had. You think about all the kids that went Division I from the team a year ago. Pretty remarkable, the most we've ever seen in the nation's history, with 11 of them going D1. But thinking about them and how they were going for the three-peat, and you were able to overcome that with your kids. How were you able to kind of overcome the mental part of knowing that they belonged with that team?
Yeah, I think the kids of the year before, the seniors the year before, and our team the year before going to the state championship game, it changed their mentality about it. And, the approach this year was an expectation to win. And we went to the semifinal games last year against Liberty Hill, not this season, the season before, and came out of that thing like with some shock that we had a chance to go play in the state championship game. Whereas this year, we went into that game expecting to win and expecting to be there. And I think that whole mentality of we're here because we belong here that happened this year that wasn't present the year before. Those kids the year before and us being able to do that led to our mentality being a little bit different headed into the game this year. But like you said, Oak Cliff, unbelievably talented. They got Division I guys all over the field at dang near every position. But our young men here are really good football players too, and we have good athletes. We have tough kids, and they're play extremely hard, and they're very coachable. And they were, we were probably outmatched at a few spots, but there's other spots where we had matchup advantages, where we had really good players at the point of attack that we needed, and that we needed to have, and our coaches did a good job of putting our kids in position to be successful and trying not to ask them to do too much or put them in a position they didn't have a chance to winning. And that's a testament to our coaches and their preparation, and really it's our kids and their mentality and their belief of we're going to go in there and we're going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I think about one place you were not overmatched was on that offensive line.
Yep.
And it starts with big number 74, Jackson Christian. Boy, he's a monster at 6'5", 300 pounds. He's got offers all over the place. Texas, UTSA, SMU, just to name a few. Did that offensive line start with him? I mean, you could really make a case that up front offensively, you guys probably had the best playing offensive line of any class at the state championships.
Yeah, those guys, and 4 of them will be coming back next year for us, which is a great place to start any team. But Jackson has now started over 30 games in his high school career, and he's headed into his senior year next year. And we had another guy, Mario Miguel, who had been playing on varsity since he was a sophomore. So those guys have played a lot of football, and they've played a lot of football together. On the other side, we got another off the tackle, a young guy, Aaron Wolford, who was a sophomore this year, who got hurt actually against Liberty Hill the week before. He hurt his knee, and he, tough as can be, wanted to play, begged to play. We got him a new brace for his knee so he could get out there and try to play, and he played hard and played well. And those guys are big, they're dedicated, they're tough and gritty, and they take pride in what they do on the front. Like my first couple of weeks here, I remember those kids coming into athletics and coming into the weight room and getting to shake their hand and see them. God, we have huge kids. It was unexpected for me. I knew we had a couple of big kids, but man, we had an abundance of really big kids for our level for 5A Division II football. And we really went to work in the weight room with those guys, and they dedicated themselves towards getting stronger. And it was throughout all season, in season lifting, like all those things, they paid off at the end of the year with the way our offensive line was able to play.
It's very rare that you see a kicker win offensive MVP in a state championship game. Gino did that. He hit 4 field goals. He even looked surprised when he won the MVP. What kind of weapon was he for you, and how cool was it to see a kicker win the offensive MVP?
It was cool for him, man. Gio improved himself throughout the football season, and from where he was last year, I think he set our school record this year for field goals. He made 16 field goals this year, which is an incredible number for a high school kicker. 4 of them obviously the state championship game, and for me, I wish he didn't have to kick so many field goals. It's we had the ball first and goal on the 5-yard line to start the game, and had a penalty and ended up backing us up, and we had to kick that first field goal. And then again in the fourth quarter, we are, 2 feet away from a touchdown on the 1. And they did some shift stuff and yelled some stuff, and we jumped off sides again and had to back that thing up and ended up kicking a field goal there too. So I wish he didn't have to kick so many field goals, but it's it's not just Gio. It's our snapper, Kel Cropper, our holder, Kate Shea Snyder, and those guys that are up there in the front protecting. The operation of that throughout the year just continued to improve, and we were efficient with the way we snapped, held, and Gio did a great job of knocking kicks through, and it was clutch. I mean, obviously we know we don't win that game without the 12 points that he put on the board.
Yeah, I think about all the details that the Joseph coaching family always looks at, and that's one that can really make a difference in a state title game. So many great stories on your team. Shay Adams of the Adams family is one that really jumps out at everybody. He was your quarterback last year, broke his leg this season, and made a miraculous comeback. He treated it basically like a flesh wound and had to talk you into playing him. Talk about the dynamics of that and what he meant to your team, just the fact that he would do anything for the team and help them win.
Yeah, when Shay went down our third week out here at our home field, and after we got the diagnosis of his injury and knew he was going to have surgery, it was a long shot for him to come back and play at all this year. And he knew his best chance of getting to play this season was us to make a run in the playoffs. And he got his cast off the week we played Nederland, and he's obviously begging me to play. And he had been wearing a boot at this point for 6 or 7 weeks, and it was not a lack of will or toughness. It was just he had no strength in his leg, and his leg had shrunk pretty good. He lost a lot of muscle in his calf on that leg from wearing that boot for so long. But he wanted to be out there. He wanted to play, and he worked tirelessly through his rehab and showed up for physical therapy every morning, and just really working on that stuff. And he was dedicated to it. It meant something to him to be able to be out there with his team and find a way to play and find a way to contribute. When we opened the first round of the playoffs against Brenham that week, he was running full speed. He was not great side to side and changing directions yet, but he carried the ball, I think, 6 times that game. And he was immediately whatever it takes for me to get on the field, give me a little bit of a role. And that grew every week from that point. And Shay's a competitor. He's a really good football player. Shay could have been our quarterback, but by the time we got to the playoffs, I told them before the state championship game, Connor had showed he was one of our best 11 football players, one of our best players on our offense, and as we had to find ways to get him and Shay on the field, and the best option was with Shay's versatility was letting Shay play receiver and be our short yardage quarterback like he'd done a lot of the year before. So that was something our coaches did a very good job of working Shay back in slowly, and our kids, they know Shay, and Shay's one of the toughest, most competitive guys on our football team. So as soon as he was able to go, there wasn't any question about getting him on the field, and he would have done anything we asked. I mean, heck, last year in the first round of the playoffs, Isaiah got hurt, our other running back got hurt, and Shay played running back last year and ran for 115 yards first round of the playoffs. So Shay's just one of those guys, man. He's a true football player. He could play defense for us. He could play quarterback. He could play receiver or tight end. And he's just truly whatever it takes. And his intelligence, he's an extremely smart kid. But he's more than that, he's just a competitor. So having him out there was huge for us. Obviously made huge plays at state championship, but we converted 3 4th downs, and every one of them went to Shea Adams. And it's who you want to have the ball in the biggest moments, and it was us getting the ball to Shea when we had to have it.
And what a dynamic offense you had. I think about Nunley. I think about Connor. You mentioned him being your quarterback. And, of course, Isaiah Nguyen, 2,000-yard rusher. This guy was absolutely huge down the stretch in the biggest games, in the state semifinals and the state championship game. He had a combined 350 yards for you. Did it feel as though you had a more dynamic offense with all those weapons this time around for the state championship game? And how much has Isaiah meant to you?
Yeah, I think I don't know if we were more dynamic. The year before we had some great football players on the outside, some dangerous guys, and Chase Prospery, Atlantic Ganary, and those guys that we had the year before were exceptional football players. I think as a whole, we did a better job this year as a staff of trying to stay more aggressive with everything and keeping it a little more open and trying to throw the ball down the field and making people respect the fact that we were going to try to throw the football down the field. And that's something that we had to do. We were able to do it in the playoffs. We made huge plays throwing the football, and Connor was a huge part of that. We had good receivers. But Isaiah, 3,400 something yards in the last 2 years, and I really didn't know what to expect with him when we started handing him the ball his junior year. I knew he was a capable running back, a good running back, but handed it to him live and in games, he showed up different than what you'd expect through practice, and he plays so much bigger than he looks and than he is. And the other thing you can say about Isaiah is we handed him the ball 300 times this year, and he didn't fumble the ball one time. So it's impressive what he was able to do. He made a huge catch out of the backfield in the state championship game on a check down where Connor was able to find him out there and made a guy miss in space, which I got all that stuff just added up. And with all of it, I think that our total, our sum was greater than the parts on both sides of the football this year. Our kids played as a team. They believed in each other, and that showed up on film, and you can watch us play and know that our team dynamic was where it needed to be. It was complementary on both sides of the football. We made plays on special teams when we needed to make plays on special teams. And then we controlled the clock. And in the state championship game, our offense through most of the third quarter had the football. We limited the possessions that they had on offense, which in turn limited their explosives. And that was a huge part of the game.
Yeah, and I think about what you were able to do defensively. We've never seen South Oak Cliff stop the way they were. I mean, they only had 162 yards of total offense from their offense. Your defense was a big part of that. And I know when you took the job, you said, we're going to stop people. It's going to start with defense. I think about guys like Max Scroggs, along with Fuentes too. Talk about that side of the ball and how important it was. I mean, defense wins championships.
Yeah, that's what my background is and where I grew up and cut my teeth. And growing up in Katy High School, it was very similar, is run the football and play defense, and finding ways to make our kids have pride in doing that and play hard on that side of the ball has been 90% of the battle. Yeah, Coach McDaniel and those guys do a great job of planning and scheming and everything, but our kids played so hard, and the effort with which they play, the way they tackle, that was the biggest difference in how far we've come on defense. We had guys in the back end that were reliable, that knew their job, knew their responsibility, and took pride in getting that stuff done. And then we had, our guys up front were super active, and they made tackles, they made plays, and Reed Richard was able to cover people on the back end throughout the year and did an unbelievable job back there doing that stuff. So again, the team aspect of everything we did on defense was huge, and the way they played together and knew their assignment, knew their responsibility, and took pride in finding ways to get to the football after that stuff was done was awesome for us. And we had some big kids up front. Andres played a great game in the state championship. I think he had finished the game with 3 sacks, but most of them were just from relentless effort, playing hard. And Mason Winchell really good on the outside. Scroggs, obviously our leading tackler, defensive MVP, or leading tackler on the season. A guy that I think made 1 tackle last year as a junior, spent most of the season with a torn hamstring, so hadn't got to play a lot of football. And for him to have the senior year he had was awesome to see, because that's another kid that does everything you ask him, like a lot of our kids, and just works tirelessly and was so dedicated towards our football team and our team being good. And I think that mentality that they all carried was why we were able to be successful in defense. And like I said earlier, Oak Cliff, yeah, we limited them yardage wise, but a big part of that was the way we controlled the clock and controlled the football through the first half of the game. I think they had 3 possessions, or 3 or 4 possessions. And then in the second half, we limited them through the third quarter and made some drives and got some first downs. And that was a compliment to what we were able to do on defense, was the way we controlled the clock and controlled the football and didn't turn the football over on offense.
Well, Jeff, you've brought so much joy to the PNG community, but I think the one thing that I like the most about you winning that state championship was the look on your dad's face. The legendary Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, Gary Joseph, one of my favorites. Obviously, he's won all the titles at Katy and all the tremendous tradition that he built there. You played for him. Talk about that moment on the field. He was very emotional. I almost felt like he enjoyed that state title more than all those other titles that he had at Katy. Kidding a little bit, but it really seemed like he was a happy guy at that point.
He was fired up. He's fired up for us, and there's two guys on our staff that played for him and at Katy, and so guys he's known for a very long time, and Matt worked for him for 12 years, 13 years. So it was me and it was those other guys that he was excited for, and he was probably a little pissed off that he got to see so many of our playoff games this year. It's a little different for him, but he got to know our kids and our football team, and he was around for practice during our Thanksgiving week. He came and spoke to our team before we played Lake Creek in the third round of the playoffs, and for him to be able to be a part of it and be around was great for me. It was great for our coaches and our kids, because the message he delivers is always going to be amazing, and he does a wonderful job with all that. But the moment after the game, it was cool. For me, it was a memory of hugging him after he won state championship games, and just being so excited for him and his staff and his kids. And he was the same way for us. And seeing him a little bit emotional at the end of that game, it got me a little bit. I wasn't exactly prepared for that part of it. I think I was trying to process in my own head what the heck just happened, and oh my gosh, we really won that game. And then seeing him, man, it was a lot at once.
What's this moment like for you, Coach?
Awesome. Good as any I've ever had, coaching and everything else. Watch a kid be successful, there's nothing like it.
Pride, and just what's the thing?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah. Proud of him, proud of Matthew. Matthew coached me for many years. Those guys do a great job over there. Of course, they get second to none. Kind of like Katy proud of them.
second to Katy.
Our team was, about us and about our team, and my dad would say the same thing. He would want to keep it that way. It was awesome to be able, for me, selfishly, be able to share that moment with him, but and being able to turn around and hug those seniors who I've now spent 2 full football seasons with, and 2 full off seasons with. Actually, that was it was just so awesome to be out there in that moment.
Were you born to coach? I mean, I think about being around your dad, Gary, and then, of course, your grandfather, Eddie. When you took this job, you talk, hey, I'm going to take little pieces from each one of them, but I'm going to make my own legacy. And your dad wants it to be that way. But what are the biggest lessons you take from them?
Yeah, coaching is a calling, and I think I know that, and I've learned that as good as anybody. I tried to get away from it for a year or two, and I got pulled right back to it because of what coaching, not what I can do in coaching, but what coaching has done for me. That it's different, man. Our profession is different, the hours, but the relationships you build through coaching are second to none. You don't get that anywhere else in the business world or in the real world, so to speak. It's different. So I've drawn so much from my dad, my grandfather, the people I worked for in the past, Kevin O'Keefe, and I learned a lot from them. And then being at Westlake with Darren Allman, and we played the state championship game there, and then with Riley up in Southlake, it was little pieces of everything that I've found with successful programs and what it takes to be successful. I've been able to draw from that, and hopefully build what I see as a successful program and a successful perennial program. So someplace you're going to win consistently, and it takes what it takes, and you learn that from watching great coaches and people that work and put in the work and put in the effort. And that's the biggest lesson. There's a lot of ways to do things, but there's still a right way to do things. And I think knowing that, and knowing not so much the football part of it, but knowing what it takes to be good and what it takes to win from a effort and work perspective. I think that's the biggest thing I've been able to draw from my dad, and the way he has always prepared himself and prepared his players for games and for seasons. I think that's been the draw that stuff that's pulled me the most. You know, the X's and O's, that it matters, but that'll only take you so far. It's all the other stuff that goes into it being a successful football program that makes the real difference.
So what are family picnics like in the Joseph family? Because there's so many coaches. I'm just picturing all you guys getting together, working on plays, X's and O's, and trying to be, win all the competitions at the picnic. Well, what are those get-togethers like with so many coaches in your family?
Well, with all that, you know, with as many coaches as we have a ton of time for all those picnics. So we definitely have a close family that we've all of us have grown up so much through athletics and football and our public school system here in Texas. And you know, my cousin coached at Denton Geyer, my uncle coached forever, and he still works in the athletic department at Baylor University. My other uncle, Scott, was a head coach for many years, and now works with my dad over at Katy. And you know, there's just so many of us. My brother-in-law is at the University of Houston, coaching off the line there, and it's a lot of football talk when we get together. And it's usually just us celebrating each other and congratulating each other when stuff's going well, and talking about plans for next year and all that stuff. But yeah, we're competitive enough. I had to coach against my dad for 4 years and 3 years, excuse me. We played against him, and it wasn't the best experience for me. But you know, he's who he is, and they have an unbelievable program that he's been able to sustain over there for so long, and the longevity of what they've been able to do is just absolutely incredible. But yeah, our family gets together through the holidays, and in the summers when we're able to do it, it all still revolves around sports and revolves around football.
Wow, that is just so fun to hear. Now, you are a member of the 2000 state championship team with the Katy Tigers. What kind of player were you, and what was it like playing for your dad?
I was probably not a great player, but I was small, slow, but I was typical of a lot of those kids at Katy. I thought I was good at that time, and had confidence, but you know, knew my job, knew my role, and was able to be successful because of the people I was around, because of our coaches, and because of our team. Yeah, we were 16-0 my senior year. We lost in the finals when I was a junior to Garland, and a really good team from Garland. But you know, it's just a fortunate for me to be able to get to grow up and experience that. And get to be able to do that in high school was an unbelievable experience. And you know, I'm still friends with a lot of those guys that I played with in high school, and those relationships you build through high school sports, they last. And when you have those types of relationships at places like Katy, or like our place here at Port Neches, those are friendships and relationships that are going to last you a long time in your life. And I still talk to a bunch of those guys, like I said. And our quarterback for my senior year, his kid's an 8th grader at Liberty Hill, so they were downhill for the Liberty Hill game, and getting to talk to them, and had some of my teammates sitting on our stands for some of our games too. So it's, you know, like I said, it's unbelievable to get to do that in high school and be a part of that, and being able to be a part of state championship games again the last 2 years. It's just been awesome.
Yeah, and I think about your journey, you know, your stops along the way. And you mentioned Riley Dodge, who you coached under at Southlake Carroll. He's had tremendous success ever since he took over as a head coach at 28 years of age. What did you like about that experience of playing under Riley, or coaching rather?
Yeah, I think it's the whole experience of being at Southlake. And you know, I didn't completely know what it was about until I went up there, but that place is very similar to us in the way that they have so much pride in the Dragons, and every school, elementaries and middle school and high school, all the Dragons, and the work that they do day in and day out, and the work their staff does every day with off season, and with all the workouts and everything they do, man. It takes what it takes. It's like I said, that the hard work is irreplaceable, and those guys up there are oftentimes overmatched, but they play with a ton of confidence. They put a ton of effort And Riley has built that up, and he understands the tradition of what it's supposed to be about at that school and what it means to put on that jersey up there at Carroll Senior High School. And it's a lot of that has come with me towards down here to Southeast Texas, to PNG, with the way we run some things, the way we operate a lot of our off season stuff, and just that attack mentality that they have every single day. Definitely carried that with me. We were able to actually Friday we went and practiced at Southlake before our state championship game, and they opened their facilities to us and were as hospitable as you could ever imagine. Man, they're super nice, and they were all excited for us to get a chance to play in that game again. And it's just really good people that I'm fortunate to know and was lucky to work with.
Kind of interesting too, and kind of ironic if you think about it. His dad, the legendary Todd Dodge, was actually a consultant on the search committee to hire you at PNG. The district hired him, and obviously he made a big recommendation for you there. When you think about the dynamics of that, kind of interesting, and also interesting that they would take a chance on you who had never had a head coaching job in your career. And then you bolt in there and have instant success. So that committee looks like a genius committee right now.
Yeah. Okay. Coach Dodge, man, he talks to me about that stuff. And he's like, well, I tell them everybody looks for a head coaching experience, but at some point somebody has to get their first head coaching job to have experience. It's if you find that somebody you believe in, then don't be afraid to hire them. And, for me, I thank all those people over at the admin building that gave me this chance, because I know it's not easy, and it's a hard position for them to be in, to have to fill this role as the head football coach and athletic director at PNG. It's a place that has been successful and been successful for a long time, and it's a big hire in our school district, and for them to take a chance on me was huge. And I'm so thankful to all those people on the committee, our superintendent, Dr. Mike Gonzalez, and Julie Goche, our deputy superintendent, and our building principal, Scott Ryan, or Dr. Scott Ryan, excuse me. They took a chance, and they let us coach out here. They believe in athletics and the power of athletics, and they do so much for our student athletes out here in all sports, really. But their support is as good as anywhere you'll find in the state of Texas, man. They've been great to me, and they give us everything that we could ask for, everything that we can need to be successful. But yeah, it's again, lucky to be here.
Hey, I don't often get calls in the middle of a podcast, but I got a text message from God here. Todd Dodge wants to know, what do you think of the Budan Hut in Port Arthur?
Last year they did awards deal at the Museum of the Gulf Coast, and I actually went to the Budan Hut with Coach Dodge and 5 of his offensive linemen that were there and sat with us at a table. We had dinner in it, and they told stories, and get to listen to those guys. It was a pretty special deal. Pretty neat, man. And him being from down here and having so much experience with Southeast Texas, he when I asked him about coming down here to this job, he was like, I think that's a great place to be. I think that place has a chance to be very successful. And it's in place, and having him, being able to talk to him as I've needed anything, it's been awesome. He's such a good guy, and even when he was at Westlake, and I've known him since my dad coached against him in 2003, and I really probably met him for the first time 2005. My first year coaching, we lost to him in the state championship game. But through the years, I've got to know him a little bit here and there, and more so when I worked for Riley up at Southlake. But he's a special guy, man. He's as good as gold, and true to what he grew up with down here in Southeast Texas, man. He's just a good person.
Nothing like the Budan Hut. Nothing like that place, right? Well, it's so rare when you think about an opportunity to, avenge a state championship loss the very next year against the same team. And I think about the dynamics from a coaching standpoint, talking to the kids. How did you make them believe what you believed to win a state title against that team?
Well, starting with, we were a different team than we were the year before. But like you said earlier, they graduated 11 guys that signed Division I scholarships last year. And, not that they don't have plenty more that are going to be Division I football players, but they were a different team too. And Coach Todd and those guys up there, they do a great job of coaching. Yes, they have really good players, but they're also very good coaches. And they are sound with everything they do. They put their kids in position to be successful, and they have really good players. But our kids, it wasn't me convincing them. I think in a lot of ways they believed more so than me that they were going to find a way to win. And that was just their mentality that they carried throughout the year. We won 15 consecutive games, and every one of them, we went into the game and they expected to win, and they didn't know anything different. And they didn't get fazed by the moment or the big stage or anything like that. It was their expectation of each other that is why we were able to play the way we did.
Looking at it, you were kind of like an outsider coming into the PNG community, but you knew all about the tradition. You knew all about the history.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more historic than the Bum Phillips Bowl and those great battles over the years. It's one of the greatest rivalries in the state of Texas with Nederland and Mid-County Madness. Now that you've been in it a couple of years, how can you describe it to other people that don't know what it's all about?
It's hard to describe if you don't know what it's about. It's our two towns just run into each other and overlap so much. And all of the guys on our team know all the kids on their team, and they pretty much grow up together playing sports throughout most of their lives. But that game it's a ton of passion. It's intense. But I know, like, everything that game is and all the passion that game brings, those people were pulling for us in the playoffs, and they wanted to see us be successful. And a lot of the people down here in Southeast Texas wanted to see us win and be successful. But that rivalry it's different and it's unique. And if you hadn't got a chance to experience it and you want to see Friday Night Lights and high school football at its finest and what you see in movies or on TV, that game is the game to go to. If you can find a way to get a ticket, that's the game to go to, because it's a blast, man. The students show up, the parents show up, and there's all the people that have been coming to that game for 50, 60 years that are at that game that have passion for that game. It's an awesome experience.
Yeah, state championships are nice, but that's the game you got to win to have the kind of longevity your dad's had.
That's
with
right.
the mighty Katy Tigers.
Yeah.
Well, you look at where the bar's set now. You couldn't set the bar any higher after winning the first state championship since 1975 at that school. What do you do now for an encore? What's the thought process going ahead to kind of keep these kids still hungry?
Yeah, and that's going to be we'll start worrying about that when we get back to school next week. But for now, our kids know, and they see all the kids that are coming back. They see what it takes, and it's not being able to look past the work that it takes. You don't show up on Friday nights and win games. You don't show up in the playoffs and start winning playoff games. It takes work, man. Our kids dedicated themselves to morning track workouts last year, and in the weight room with the weights, after school weights that they showed up for, the summer weights they showed up for, all the strength conditioning stuff that we do throughout off season. But hopefully our younger kids see what it takes, and they know, like, this is how you do it, and there's a right way to make it happen and a right way to get it done. It's not walk out there with defending state champions or purple PNG on your chest and think you're going to beat people because of that, because that's not the way it works. And football has a way of exposing you very quickly if you haven't done the work and prepared yourself. So I hope that's their mentality is they see that the work pays off. And we tell our kids all the time that stuff doesn't happen by accident. You get what you work for.
So, Jeff, you've often talked about what a special place Port Neches-Groves is, but you experienced that back as a player, right?
Yeah, my junior year in high school, we lost in the state championship game, and the game after us was Port Neches-Groves versus Stephenville. And so, it's a tough moment to reflect on, but walking off that field, there's 40,000 people in the stands at the Astrodome, and there's half of them, more than half of them at that point, were up wearing purple, and fighting for seats with all of our red and white Katy people, and you look up and see all these people in purple everywhere. And I was like, who the heck are these guys? You know, I'd seen them play in the playoffs in the Astrodome with Dustin Long that year. But to see those people show up in the state championship game, playing Stephenville, and Stephenville's people had the propane tanks and ball bearings and shaking those things on the other side. That was my first true, like, Port Neches-Groves, these people are a little different down there type of experience. So it was eye-opening, but it was a moment that I didn't think would come full circle like it did.
Well, so fun to celebrate you and your tremendous team. A big congratulations. I look forward to our interview next year after you go back to back. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Rick. Man, I really appreciate it.
Thanks for checking out Rick Renner, Texas High School Hysteria. Make sure you subscribe and never miss an episode. You can catch us on YouTube, Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Odyssey, or any of your favorite streaming platforms. Tune in and we will see you soon.